Veggies are becoming more and more expensive, and you probably looked at indoor gardening and immediately thought, absolutely no. The hydro and the lights, it's all way too expensive for me. Well, the good news is I'm here to show you how to grow stuff on a window's ledge. Now, I'm not in this business to give you or sell you an idea that sounds good on paper, but in reality does not perform. So I am going to go through the limitations of this process, along with the seeds that you probably shouldn't try to do this with, and some things you may notice that aren't necessarily normal growth, but do not mean that you're failing at window ledge gardening. So let's jump into it. Today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform that allows you to learn about a hobby, a self-care, or even a skill in developing a small business. One of my favorite courses right now is made by this girl named Ashley, and it's about how to garden indoors using soil. There will be a number of different courses put out by this creator very soon, and it actually allows me to look at discussions and photos posted from the project. At the end of every course, there is a project class assignment, and the teacher actually gets to see the course assignment, critique it, and help you develop the best project possible. Now, this means I can spend a lot more one-on-one time with you because the course itself can be anywhere from 10 minutes to several hours, depending on the content inside. So if you guys want to join Skillshare for free, I suggest you click on the link in the description or the first posted comment. It's going to give you a 1-month subscription for free to the first 1,000 people that click that link. So get clicking because this is a very limited time offer and it is very exclusive. With that being said, let's get back into indoor gardening. I think one of the first things we need to discuss when we're talking about growing on a window's ledge is what seeds exactly can be grown there. The reality is that fruits and flowers cannot be grown on a window's ledge. Now, maybe in some more tropical climates, this is possible. And during the summer seasons in a cold climate, it may be possible. For those of us here in the Northern Hemisphere, though, unfortunately, the number of hours of light we get, the intensity of light we get during the winter just does not allow for this to happen in a productive way. I'm not gonna lie to you there, it's probably a bad choice if you wanna grow cucumbers or tomatoes. But with that being said, if your goal is lettuce and herbs, you may be okay. Now, the reason I say maybe is because it's going to depend on the types you choose. Number one thing you need to watch out for is heads of lettuce. You know, when we look at a head of cabbage and it's a whole bunch of leaves folded in on itself, while cabbage doesn't need a ton of light, it does need some. And if it doesn't have enough, you can be darn sure it's gonna become leggy. The same rules apply to things like romaine and iceberg lettuce. These are two types of lettuce that absolutely must be grown under a grow light. The things that will work are those fresh greens or pick as you come or pick and goes. Those lettuce leaves will be just fine. They're the things that are seen in the spring mix salads, so these can include arugula, spinach, and any loose leaf lettuce. I'll leave some links down below for great options for indoor window ledge growing, and the reason why these work is because of the leaf structure itself. The leaves being separated rather than piled together allow for the light to penetrate in a particular way that allows for photosynthesis to take place en masse. Now, these plants typically do not like to be grown in full sun outdoors, so you can see why they'd grow great on a window's ledge. When growing on a window's ledge, there is another thing to think about, and that is the intensity of light along with the hours of light. So many of us Canadians and Northern Americans know is that the days aren't particularly long. When you combine that with an unfortunately gloomy winter, and you can see how much that can affect intensity and the length of said light. Now, this isn't a bad thing, and it's not something to be discouraged of, and I'm not gonna start telling you to put grow lights on these plants. What I am gonna teach you though is some things that you may see that are going to be completely normal and are simply just a sign that the intensity of light and the duration light are not enough, but they're still edible and you just have to wait it out. So one of the first signs of this is actually going to be legginess. I know we're all familiar with this if we grow indoors and start our seeds indoors with light. We've seen the wimpy plants that kind of droop over, have a really long stem before we get to the first leaves. That's legginess. Now, legginess, when it's not an extreme version, is recoverable, but if your plant is simply laying on the ground, it's likely not going to produce very well, and you may want to restart those seeds. The second form of trouble that you may run into is something we call phototropism. Now, the good news here is that this is salvageable. All it means is the plant's ability to curve towards the sun. It's a whole bunch of metabolical processes that go on that we're not going to discuss in this video, but essentially it's just trying to get to the sunlight. The best way to counter this and ensure that the plant continues to grow straight is every day or two actually flipping it 180 degrees so that it's facing the opposite direction, so it'll actually train itself to go back the other way. We're essentially just phototropisming one way and then phototropisming the next way, but ultimately that's just something that you're going to see even on the brightest cell. What I will say is I would encourage you to put this in the most south-facing, sunniest version of a window you possibly have, because that is going to ensure the ultimate success when growing on a window's ledge. So we know about seed selection, and we know about some of the issues we may encounter, none of which are deadly or concerning, but some things that we just maybe need to watch out for. There are two methods now in which we can actually plant these seeds, and I would encourage you to try both and see which one works best for you. The obvious limitations of growing on a window's ledge is the space we have. So our containers are going to be undersized, which means we may need to water more often if we choose to grow in soil. One way to do that is just with recycled containers, cups, milk jugs, etc. and so forth. If I'm not in a high traffic area, what I have done in the past and what I do right now, I'll try to insert some footage of it, is you can buy these kind of candle glasses from the Dollarama. I set it on the window's ledge and I put the bulk of the plant as far towards the window's ledge as possible, but it does stick out a little bit and act almost like a little tiny bit of a platform. This again can only be done in a non-high traffic area. If someone's going to run into it and bump it, I can guarantee the plant's going to fall off, so just keep that in mind. The next thing I like to do is monitor watering, so I don't cut holes in the bottom of my containers when I indoor grow, because to me it just is too much of a hassle and too much of a potential mess to deal with. So I leave my bottom sealed and then I just water accordingly and ensure that I don't overwater whenever possible. One thing I will say is if you're having slow germination or no germination, I would encourage you to take it off of that windowsill. It's likely too cold and too drafty for the lettuce or the herbs in general to germinate. This is because the lettuce seeds in particular like a warm soil. So removing it from the windowsill and germinating it on the counter table may result in some legginess, but it will result in germination, whereas a drafty window will suppress that germination and it may just generally not happen. The second option you could go with is actually called the cracky method. Now I'm going to call this the modified cracky method because technically these containers you would need to refill because they are so small. The average lettuce plant needs about 7 liters of water during its growing session, and this is only a liter, so I would need this 7 times over. But this will work, and I will go over what a cracky method looks like on a large scale in a future video for the indoor gardening. But with that being said, if you want more information on indoor gardening and a very thorough look at all the different potential ways to do this, please comment down below and give this video a thumbs up. It just helps me know whether or not you're enjoying this content or if it's something that you just really don't have any interest in. So in this case today, I am going to be planting up some of my Aero garden plants. So first what I want you to do is just take tinfoil if you're using the cracky method and fold it over top. In a container like this with a wider mouth, it's going to reduce the rates of evaporation, but it's also going to give me a place to put my new little hydro pod in place. So this here is just the coconut coir discs that you can purchase. This is an actual cotton on the outside. It's a little bit different than the Jiffy Peat, and this cotton does decompose. I used these this spring to germinate some plants in, so just a fun fact there. I'm experimenting with a new kind of Amazon hydro system. I'll do a review on it, but it doesn't have, it comes with a light that obviously is not 110%. This is an example of a leggy dang plant. So this is salvageable, hopefully, and we're gonna pop them in there and see. So you wanna make a little tiny hole on the top, and then this is gonna be loud, so I'm gonna pop it in there. So now that I've made a little bit of a hole, you're going to, I'm using something, it's a Canadian company called Permastake. I'll leave their Instagram down below, but you can also use toothpicks, for example. And you're just going to pop it into the pod and kind of make a brace around it. Also, another thing that would work would be like any sort of skewer. So metal skewer, whatever the case is. I find that these are pretty heavy duty stakes, and so They work particularly well at supporting the larger size plants. So I'm just gonna pop this guy in. And the key here is we want the water level to be touching the bottom of the plant. So now I have it fully watered. You can see the water kind of coming up over the edges. If you want to follow updates on what this situation turns into, just go give me a follow over on Instagram. I will do updates over on that end. So that is what a modified cracky system is going to look like. Another option would be to use a pop can such as this. And I'm just going to yank another plant out. And in this case, I'm going to use the foil once again. And I'm going to poke my hole and I'm going to stick the plant all the way in. And what's keeping this one above ground is the cotyledons. So the cotyledons are what is holding it in place. And there you go. No crazy Q-tips or anything like that. For the soil one, I'm going to use Jocelyn's Soil Booster and I'm going to fill it up that way and then water as needed. And like, if you want an update on what this grow system is going to look like at the end, be sure to give me a follow over on Instagram. I'll do updates over there, as well as I'll do a live stream about just indoor growing in general. And I'll show you guys where everything is at. Remember though, you don't have to just grow on windowsills. There are other options, so go check out my video on sprouts. This is going to be another option for you that's grow light free and pretty darn healthy actually. I went to my naturopath today and I told her that I was doing broccoli sprouts and she was very happy about it, I will say. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and I will talk to you guys next time. Happy growing. Bye.